Hi friends, welcome to Starsight. My name is Samya Vasa. I'm an astrologer and a tarot reader. We have the new moon in Sagittarius coming up on December 13, 5 a.m. Indian Standard Time. I forgot to check what day it is, December 13. I want to explain to you what is the energy of Sagittarius first, and then go on to talk about the aspects that are surrounding this particular new moon on the 13th. I was thinking this morning about how to explain Sagittarianness to you, and I remembered this child that I had met many years ago. I think I was in college, and this child was 7 or 8 years old, and he was the son of a family friend. This was the first time he had come home, and in my community, young daughters are supposed to serve food to everyone. So I remember going in with glass of water and then some food and interacting with him, and each time in response to my mundane questions like, would you like some chips, or do you want some fruit, or would you like something cold to drink, or do you want something hot, there was a manner in which he responded to me that felt like this was a very different kind of mind. It's hard for me to explain what was the quality of his communication. It felt really intelligent. It felt like electricity. Like every small thing was significant to him in some way. And then he left, and I was telling my father that, wow, some of these things I was telling him, and my father told me that this child was enrolled in a very different kind of school. The school didn't have any it did have a fixed curriculum, but it did not follow traditional curriculum. It did not have textbooks, and it did not have exams until 8th grade or something. Okay. And the way they taught was very innovative. So, in normal schooling where I am, we have different subjects like geography and history and biology, languages, math. In this school, the way they were taught was that they would pick a topic per month, and then they would study that topic from all different disciplinary perspectives. So, 1 month their topic would be hands, and they would be studying hands as a biological entity, as parts of the body, the history of the evolution of hands, so the history of the species, pre-Homo sapiens, the history of the world, the concept of evolution. They studied painting, cave painting, the different arts and crafts that require hands. They studied disability. What does it mean to be born without hands? They studied poems about hands. When I heard that, I felt like my whole heart just expand. 1 month their subject was green, the color green. And so they studied the digestive system, the importance of green vegetables, nutrition. They studied processes of dye extraction. They had a whole day of painting with different colors of green. They studied countries that had a lot of green forest cover, the importance of forest cover, deforestation, pollution, gardening. They had over a week classes, gardening classes that month. So every month they'd have a topic that they would just study from these various perspectives, as if it was all connected, which it was. But that's not how we generally study in school. So here, at least where I am, where I grew up, if we are studying the digestive system in the biology class, we are not looking at the same time in physics what is the connection to the digestive system. We're not. But here were these kids, and here was this school, and they were doing this work of experiencing knowledge as a holistic world. They were experiencing knowledge in a wide angle sort of a way, where around one subject, one topic, all of these disciplinary perspectives came together. This is Jupiter in Sagittarius at its finest. This is what it means for Jupiter to function in its Sagittarian avatar, which is to see the connection in everything, which is to learn how to see the connection in everything, to find it. You know, Mercury is in charge of gathering data. Mercury is very good at collecting data of different sorts, collecting information, organizing it, even understanding it. But the function of synthesis, the function of understanding how all of it comes together, that belongs to Jupiter. Jupiter weaves these expansive holes, like when you're knitting, and everything comes together, all the threads come together in an entity, in a finished entity. Which is why Jupiter ruled, if you have a dominant Jupiter in your chart, or especially if you have a Sagittarius emphasis in your chart, you can get a little bit hung up on what you see, because it's so beautiful, it's so coherent that you cannot like, it's hard for you to understand how someone can disagree with it, or how someone cannot see the value of it. So Jupiter in Sagittarius is this capacity to extract wisdom out of information, to extract truth out of data. And it's done through this faith that there is connection between different, different variables, that there is connection there. One only has to learn how to find it, and one has to be patient enough to find it. Jupiter also is about longer cycles, not short-term cycles like Mercury. So now this is Jupiter in Sagittarius. So typically when we have a new moon in Sagittarius, we are starting a 6-month cycle of synthesis, of learning this art of synthesis, especially in the Sagittarius part of our chart. Okay, to come to that kind of a level of understanding that is no more, that's much more than the sum of its parts. So look at what topics Sagittarius governs in your chart, and you can have a sense of where you'll be working towards this kind of a synthesis over the next 6 months. However, what's happening at this new moon is that we're not in a very good spot resource wise. So I'll explain why that is. Jupiter, the ruler of the new moon, is in Taurus and is retrograding. And it's been retrograding for a while, and it won't be direct until the end of the month. Okay? So it's quite slow, and also it's just doubling down on the expansion that it's created in Taurus. Now, Taurus is, as it is, a slow, earthy sign. Sagittarius is not. Sagittarius is fast moving. Even with Jupiter ruling long cycles, Sagittarius still has, as a fire sign, it needs that stimulation, it needs that quickness. So in Taurus, Jupiter is already slow, and in its retrograde state, it is slower. So it's not very well resourced there, especially because the ruler of Taurus is in Scorpio, in exile. So I'm going to run through this again. The new moon's ruler, Jupiter, is in Taurus, retrograding. Jupiter's ruler, Venus, is in Scorpio, and in Scorpio, Venus is in its exile. So Venus is not very well resourced there. And Venus's ruler, Mars, because Mars is the ruler of Scorpio, is itself in Sagittarius, but under the beams of the sun. So even Mars does not have power right now. So all of these three planets that are in play with the new moon, Jupiter, Venus, and Mars, they are all in places where they're just exhausted. They don't have the resources to do what they want to do. They are in environments that are challenging. It's really like you have to write a paper, you have to submit it tomorrow, but your head is hurting, you're really hungry, there is no electricity, and there's too much noise in the neighborhood. It's like everything. These are minor inconveniences in some sense, but they are together, they're too much. They make it impossible for you to be productive. It's frustrating. That is the note of this new moon. These are not major catastrophes, but it's like you just don't have what you need to do what you have to do, or even to do what you want to do. So if you are in such a state, what would you do, right? So the first thing you would do is you would figure out what is most essential. I'm not going to be able to write the paper of my dreams. It's not going to be the most brilliant paper of my career. I may not get an A, but I want to try for a decent B. Or at least I want to try and answer the question as directly as I can, do justice to the question as much as I can. But I am not going to try and whip out the paper of my dreams, right? So you're going to start thinking in terms of efficiency, pragmatism, and practicality. I have a night, my head is hurting, which means that I'm not going to be able to stay up the whole night. I probably have only 3 hours before I think I'm going to die. So in 3 hours, what is the best that I can do? Okay? So the first thing you do is identify what is essential, what must be done, and what can be taken off your plate. this is supported by Jupiter, who is in Taurus, who is a very practical sign, who is all about prioritizing the joy of the body. And not joy in the sense of how do I frolic and how do I sleep in silk and velvet, that too, but in its principle, it's about privileging the joy of the natural body, privileging the flow of natural rhythms. So, with this new moon in Sagittarius, with this 6 month cycle that it's inaugurating, one of the strategies that you can adopt and amplify in the Sagittarius part of your chart is back to basics. Okay? What is most essential in this world? So, for example, if Sagittarius is in your 4th house, okay, it's a house of family, roots, ancestors. Let's say that you have a lot of responsibilities when it comes to family. In this 6 month cycle, what you can do is figure out, well, what are the most essential tasks that I have to do, and what are the tasks that I can delegate, or what are the things that I can actually say I'm not going to do these anymore. Wherever Sagittarius is in your chart, use this mantra back to basics, and do it not just in an intellectual way, like I can do this, I can't do this, but think of your capacity as a human body. What is feasible for you? What is sustainable for you? From that place, remember, we're thinking, I only have 3 hours, I don't have the full night. I'm not thinking mentally. In principle, I may have the full night, but I understand the limits of my body that is hurting. So from that place, I know I only have 3 hours. And from that place, then it is the identification of essentials is very different. If I had a whole night, what I would consider to be essential would be very different. So start with yourself. What is sustainable and feasible for yourself? How much do you really have to give to others? Because Jupiter can be very generous. So, is there in the Sagittarius part of your chart, have you overstepped your bounds in your desire to be generous to others? If so, this is going to be a really good cycle. Remember, resources are really low. So, this is going to be a very good cycle for you to figure out, reel your giving back in, and think carefully about what's draining you and what's possible for you to give. So that's the first thing you can do, back to basics in the Sagittarius part of your chart. But the second thing you can do, and this is, I'm saying this because the new moon is squaring Neptune in Pisces, that has station direct recently, actually just yesterday, which is 7th December. And so Neptune is very powerful right now, and it is in Pisces, a sign with which it has a lot of affinity. The new moon and the sun in Sagittarius are squaring Neptune and Pisces. And that's another place that you can draw in some resources. So what are those resources? Neptune in Pisces is about intelligence of a very different kind than Jupiter. Neptune in Pisces is about the experience of being connected to everything. It's not about the truth of being connected. It's not about the knowledge of being connected. It's not about the wisdom that flows out of knowing that connection. It's about the experience of it, which is it's a very, very different thing. You know, that child that I was speaking about at the beginning of this video, That's I think the ice cream truck. Um, that child was too young to know exactly how the laws of physics, were connected to the rhythms of the body, how they were attuned to the arcs of history. But that child was changed and transformed and formed because, I think, because he was touched by the experience that everything is connected. He was too young. Even the most brilliant of children at 7 or 8, too young to be able to articulate all of that at the level of knowledge, at the level of wisdom. But what he'd had was this experience of things being connected. And I think it was that had changed him, that had activated another kind of intelligence within him, his own intelligence, his own sense of things. At 7 or 8, he was his own person, which I thought was amazing. How many of us can say that even, in our 20s, 30s, 40s, And Neptune in Pisces is that experience, which feels more like a remembrance. You cannot bring it about by reading 5 books, but you can bring it about by meditating. You can bring it about with plant medicine. Those 3 hours that you have to write the paper, maybe you can drink a couple glasses of alcohol and let your conscious mind relax so that a deeper voice can come through you. Now, I don't think college students are watching this, but if you're watching this, this advice is not for you. This is for older students. Yeah. But you know what I mean, right? That sometimes when all our resources are down, especially all our mental, rational, logical resources are down, we need to activate creative intelligence within us. And that creative intelligence does not have, like a paragraph of truth to go by. It cannot say this is this, this is that. But that creative intelligence has at its source this faith that everything is connected, even though you can't see it yet. It has this memory of knowing at some point in existence that everything was one, everything was connected, but I can't see it yet. And so if you can find in some way to be able to relax your conscious mind through these 6 months for the Sagittarius part of your chart, and see these topics with the eyes of your imagination. See these topics without letting your logical mind take over everything that you see. Then you might come up with a very different kind of solution. You might write a stupidly poetic paper that actually has nothing to do with the question, but it blows everyone away. Maybe you'll end up writing about things that most matter to you. Maybe you'll say something like, this question is asking me to write about this, but actually this question is evoking thoughts of another register altogether. Maybe it'll be the beginning of a project that you did not imagine you were interested in. And so instead of it becoming a project of synthesis, it'll be the origin of something. It'll be the beginning of something rather than the synthesis stage of something. So with this new moon, these two strategies might unlock a very different kind of wisdom within you. One is back to basics. And again, this is not just something intellectual, but something you do on a daily basis. Prioritizing where you are in a bodily way, focusing on the essentials, doing only what is absolutely necessary, not out of laziness, but out of understanding that there is a lot that we do out of all the wrong reasons. Like, does it really matter whether at some point it did, but there is a point in your studies where it kind of doesn't matter whether you get an A or a B. And so, is that really necessary, or what is necessary is for me to have a writing experience that transforms me? For me to have a writing experience that awakens insight within me, rather than me proving that I'm intelligent and I can do A, B, C. Is that what is important, or what is important is me really learning to speak in my own voice? And is this voice muffled by the umpteen inessential priorities that I have told myself are important? So, back to basics and awakening creative intelligence within us. Again, by focusing on faith. Faith that there is connection between the various different strands that are in front of me. Faith that just, even if I can't articulate it, even if I don't know what it is, just being able to experience that connection will transform me, will bring me what I need. All right, so the new moon in Sagittarius. Have a good one.